right, there we go. Now we're official. Good morning, everybody. Or good afternoon, wherever you might be. Welcome to our town hall, our weekly town hall. Today is April 26th. We're almost in May. I've taken a new approach to the town hall. I still haven't planned anything, so let's put that right out there. But I have written down ideas on this sheet of paper right here, because it seems like these are the things we do each week anyway. And I'm like, well, why don't we kind of formalize this a bit? And so I thought we could start, if anyone had a success story they wanted to share from the past week. We used to do this to start the town hall, and we'll try to go back to it. A success story, something good from the past week. Anything at all? Anything you learned, something you did with a team that worked, some kind of technology solution. I'm up for anything. Hi, Lauren. What do you guys have?
Okay, well, this week was kind of a bumpy week over here.
Yeah.
At least this last week. But today, I have to say a small win for us, and I like this idea of small win, was that an assistant that we've been working really intensely with is going to be presenting at our Communication Literacy and AAC Share Fair. And she recorded her video and I reviewed it. So this afternoon we're having the Share Fair. And we had more than 40 people register, which is awesome. And this assistant blew it out of the water in her 4-minute video. I was like, thank you. So I'm so excited. And she is just keeping me going today.
That's
so
awesome. Love it. Love it. I wonder if it's one of those things that this was like the first time she was ever asked to participate in something.
Yeah, I wonder if, we were trying to highlight what the strategies that teachers, assistants, therapists, parents are using in those 3 areas, in literacy, communication, and AAC. And I tried to do a flip grid. Some things fell flat, but this Share Fair, we're going to capture everything and then put it in a flip grid and then have people add or comment or add to it. But we have pre-K up to our post-secondary, like our 18 to 22-year-old students, our program, which is preparing them for job sites, and our little post-secondary group where their teachers and related service provider, one of the SLP from that group, she'll be presenting. So I'm really excited. Everybody gets 4 or 5 minutes and we have 7 or 8 people presenting for the hour, and it's going to be great. I'm really psyched.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is this the first time you've done this kind of Share Fair approach to things?
Yeah, we used to have like an in-person something, but this is the first time we've done this in a really long time. So
I like that idea. I feel like giving people like 4 or 5 minutes doesn't feel scary to a lot of people. If you say present something, people instantly start to clench up and they get panicked. But if you say, could you share something for less than 5 minutes about what you're doing? I feel like people that puts people at ease a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah, the videos are really natural. The things that people presented are across a wide range of strategies, techniques, presentation styles. I mean, it's really cool. So
That's awesome. Very cool.
Small win.
Small win. That's a big win. It's a big win for that assistant, and it's a big win going forward, right?
Yeah. So I did this podcast. I was listening to Work Life. Do you ever listen to that one? It's from TED, from the TED podcast, TED Talk podcast suite of talks. And I think it's Adam Grant, and it was about burnout. And so I was listening to this podcast, and it was talking about stress versus burnout and the difference of it. And then it talked about the burnout sort of triangle. And it talked a lot about teachers, educators, and a lot about medical professionals. It really kind of like hit home. And one of the things they kept talking about under the area of efficacy. So the triangle is demand, control, and support. Okay. So demand, control, support. You may not be able to impact all areas of the triangle, but like you could impact control, particularly as a teacher. And they were saying that teachers or educators, people working in the schools, feel burnout because they feel low efficacy. They feel like the hamster on the wheel that just keeps going and they're not making any change, or like they keep doing the same reading program, or they keep offering the same technology solutions, whatever it may be, and nothing's happening that's different. And that's the real burnout, versus the stress is like the inbox that just keeps pounding you down and you're drowning. Is like you don't have control. So on the demand control support, and it might be the support too.
I was about to say that to you. It could be any of those pieces, right? As we think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was talking about efficacy, like feeling like you could make a difference. And so this idea of like it's out of control. And so this idea of small win came up. And anyway, you should listen to the podcast. He does a much better job than I do, but it was really terrific. It really made me kind of like step back and say like, well, what can I do in each of those areas that would like decrease the demand, increase my feeling of control, or whoever's, somebody I'm coaching's area of control, and what can we do about support? And the empathic listening was a big one. So
I'm downloading it as we talk.
Yes.
There you go. Perfect.
It was well worth whatever 42 minutes, I think.
That's good. All right. Perfect. All right. It's coming right now. That's good. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was part 2 on my sheet. You actually hit the first 2 things on my sheet, which was a success and then a recommendation, and you did them both.
Awesome. Well,
Nice.
Also for small wins, if you look at BJ Fogg, he's out of Stanford, and he talks about these like small wins or looking at tiny habits. That's another one. Like if you want to change, he gives this example of like flossing your teeth. Like I haven't been flossing my teeth. I need to floss my teeth more. My dentist says I have to do it. I'm going to like floss one, right? So you floss one tooth, then you're likely to just floss the other. I don't know how many teeth you have. 20, 30? I don't know. I'm not a dentist.
The other 107 teeth we have, or however many we have.
Right, all the others. So his work is really, really good. He has mentored, oh God, like I think he mentored the people who invented Instagram, and he's mentored all the students. But tiny win, or tiny habit and small win are things to kind of dig into. So.
Tiny habit. All right, I'll look that up too. That's awesome.
Yeah, BJ Fogg, Fogg. I heard him talk, oh gosh, probably like a decade ago at the MLearnCon, Mobile Learning Conference, which is one of my favorite conferences to go to. Totally in my zone and out of my zone at the same time. But my husband is a web developer and was an app developer, started on app development a really long time ago. So it was kind of cool because we presented there together, which was not something that I often get to do with my husband.
It's great. I like it. I like when the circles can connect in some way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. Thanks, Lauren, for hitting 2 things on my card. Anybody else want to try something off my card? A win? Maybe it's a tiny win. Maybe it's a little success, whatever it might be. A success or even a recommendation, something that you picked up this week. A book, a podcast, some kind of PD event that you went to that was really good, some kind of addition to your network that you found really valuable as the week went on. What do we have? Anybody else got something?
I have something.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I am doing 3 AAC evaluations simultaneously for the same classroom. There's a new teacher. None of the kids, it's a high school classroom. No one in the class has really ever had AAC. There's not even low tech support. So it's sort of like a big hurdle. How am I going to do this? And thankfully I have a mentor, and I spoke with her about this, and she gave me this suggestion about maybe doing whole class lessons a few times a week. So then you're modeling the AAC device that you're trialing with the student. You're also modeling for the staff about how to expand their language. You're using, and I gave low tech communication boards to all the students. And we worked on the core words put in as we were sorting recycling versus compost on Earth Day. And independently, I have a student who is trialing touch chat, and I had it on his desk, but I'm also like moving around the classroom, and he scanned his device and independently typed in, put in. I was like, oh my God, he just did that independently. So it was great. And it's like everyone else is seeing it. And I'm sort of like knocking down a bunch of, a bunch of things at once. So I felt like that was a success. And I'm actually going to be doing it consistently through the end of the year. So
that's awesome. That's a great win, right? And it didn't happen in some kind of like vacuum off to the side. It happened in the real learning environment with everyone around, and it has that kind of direct impact on everyone, which is awesome. That's exciting.
Anya, you're going to see so much payoff. My first AT assignment, they were trying an experiment and they plopped me into a classroom with 8 AAC learners and a speech therapist. And luckily the speech therapist happened to be outstanding and amazing. And at the end of the year, they were doing so many amazing things in that classroom. So keep doing it, even when it's frustrating, because the payoff is going to be huge.
Yeah, it makes
we
me
had no
question.
idea what the payoff was going to be.
Yeah.
It makes me question the service delivery model in schools, how it is kind of one size
Yep.
fits all. And the students with more significant language and communication challenges do not fit. Like, I am much more purposeful, I think, in the classroom with the staff in those moments in between lessons where you can model and facilitate so much more than in the speech room and then I drop them back off, So yeah, I definitely.
In about a month from
value.
now, the PAs are all going to start doing it, and the teacher's going to start planning lessons around. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna take a
It's
while.
it's going to kind of infuse into every part of what happens in that class now, which
Yep.
is awesome. Yeah, which is what you want, right? You're multiplying your effort so that you're not working off to a side and hoping that it affects change somewhere else. You're actually in there changing it as you go, doing your service. You are changing the service delivery, and that's good. You're changing your service delivery model. It's awesome. Very cool. That's a good success. I had a Kumo space success the other day, and it made me really happy because my experience with our speed ATing had a tech breakdown on my end, and it made me rethink the whole process. But I did a coaching event last week for a group I'm working with, and we've been working with these educators throughout the year, and we get together every other month for coaching sessions for like 2 hours, and it's kind of content driven and breakout driven, and it has a whole like process that we do. And we were starting to get concerned because it's getting to the end of the year and everybody was feeling very burnt, and there was no excitement about our upcoming meeting, and it started to feel like people, I think, were starting to feel like, oh, it's just one more meeting I have to go to for 2 hours, and I don't really want to be there. And so the organizers, we were all talking about what to do, and we decided to take a step back and just ed camp it for most of the session, and we let people drive the discussion, and we had big topics that we wanted to hit. But instead of us talking to them, we put it out there to the group to have them kind of round robin through the topics. And so they could all give their feedback. And then we let them decide how we were going to run the last like 40 to 50 minutes of the event. And it was just ed camp. We let them set it up on a Jamboard. We put it into a grid. We opened up the Kumo space. We did the whole entire event in Kumo space and not in Zoom at all. We didn't even go to Zoom. And we just did it in Kumo space, and we surprisingly had a lot of success. It really worked, and people were moving around, and it was exactly the hope of what I wanted to see Kumo space be, which was if you looked at a map of the rooms, there were little conversations all over, and that was exactly what I wanted. It was the same topic in each room, but people were having little conversation pods as they settled into that room. And what I found as the facilitator, it really was less obnoxious to drop into a group. And I always have this fear in a breakout room, when the facilitator drops in, it makes that annoying bell ring. And then boom, suddenly I'm there and all conversation stops and everybody stares at me. And I always want to say, no, I'm just listening. I'll say something if I need to, but I'm just listening. So with the Kumo space, I was able to drop in and out of rooms, and I just drifted my little head around the room and slid into a conversation and slid out. And it was exactly like what would have happened if I was in a training, which was really exciting. I could hear a bunch of different conversations without derailing every single one by me popping into a room. So it was a very positive experience and people really liked it. So that was my positive Kumo space from the other day. So I'm happy about that. It was my success. Anybody else? A success or some kind of resource you want to share? A recommendation?
My name's Kelly Martini.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas. It's so fun to see you guys. I've seen your names on the Wadi listserv. I'm like, oh, that's what they look like.
It's us. We're glad you're here.
Well, yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I went to a really great training last week with Sarah Ward, speech pathologist, and it was on executive functioning. I had a personal victory last night with my own daughter. So, one of the things she talks about is working on, that nonverbal working memory, really giving kids the tools they need to kind of see themselves in space and time. And just as simple as taking a picture of something and kind of labeling that picture instead of giving them a checklist or a to-do list. And Emmeline, my 9-year-old, every Sunday night, I ask her to clean her room. And every Sunday night it's a battle, and what I envision that room looking like and what she sees it, two very different things. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a page out of Sarah Ward's book. And so I went around and took pictures of her room, and then I just on my phone added some captions, and I just handed Emmeline my phone, and I left. And 15 minutes later, it was amazing. And she was like, I really like that. Can we do that the same way every Sunday? And I was like, yes.
Sweet.
But again, I think, I was just like, really, again, her ability to self-monitor and to know what I was seeing in my mind. She was able to kind of execute the task with a lot more independence. But again, I think this is a really practical strategy, and it's a low tech, easy way to get kids through some routines that, they're engaged in every week. So that's my win.
I love it. That's a great win. And who can beat a win that impacts your own house, right? Your own house has been impacted in a good way. It's a good thing. It's so interesting when we start thinking about that idea of expectations and what it means to each of us. What a clean room means to me is very different from what it means to someone else. And so having that kind of shared understanding of what the expectation is and being able to visualize that and share that is great.
Well, and I will say, she, after she was all done, she wanted to look at the pictures of the before and after. And that was a huge impression. And she was like, can you take pictures now, of everything? And so, of course, that's what we'll use from here on out, because that's what she can envision in her mind and kind of see herself in that space, kind of doing those activities. So
yeah, those are great. Taking pictures never can be. Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
No, go ahead.
It's like static video modeling, but it's like video self-modeling, or oh, this is a picture of your room when it is meeting both of our expectations. And I love that because it's her work. She did it. So it's more motivating than when somebody else does it, particularly with a teenager, you said. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Such a good idea. I love that idea. One of my favorite accommodations for kids that are taking pictures of the board in school is to put them in something that helps manage those pictures, like a Google Keep or a OneNote or something where it can be added into some kind of note-taking file system that they can go back and view. Because I think a lot of people use that idea of pictures, but then it becomes the management of those pictures is the trick. It's one thing to have pictures, and I'm sure all of us could open up our photo roll on our phone right now and shake our head a little bit about what that looks like and trying to find something there. but adding in that one layer of organization to pictures and putting it in Google Keep and labeling it in some way so I can find it and color code it or whatever it might be. Even I've been doing a lot with students, even if they're putting pictures in their camera roll, making albums, put them in albums in your photo roll, just so that these things have some kind of organizational structure to them. So you're not just, frantically scrolling to find a picture all the time. It has at least some structure, right? Lauren, we could talk about Google Keep. I could talk about that all day. I mean, I got nothing but time for that if that's what we want to talk about. But yeah, I love it. I think just adding that one extra piece makes people have that. It's that little aha moment of, oh, taking a picture makes perfect sense to people, but then adding some organization on top of it really makes someone, oh, wait a second, I could definitely use that for things. And think about that. You could share, pictures could be shared in notes across. Kelly could share it with her daughter in a note. And they could both see it and both comment on it at the same time and have access to it on their own devices. It's awesome. Love it. Cool.
That's a great idea, and I'm going to do that today.
Awesome. Great. Well, let us know how it goes. How exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about this.
I'm glad we did. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you brought it up. That was awesome. Thank you. Cool. Anybody else something to share? Oh, my little organization card is really working out for me. This is great. Why don't I do this more often? The only other thing I had on my card, that's where the end of my card is. This is it. It's the end. Does anyone have an issue that they want the group's help brainstorming? Have anything that popped up that you want to pick everybody's brains for? You see, our brains are ripe for picking. So. Or I could go to the card stack.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Mike, thanks for your email on Friday. We have a 13-year-old student. He's not on my caseload, but I'm sort of consulting. And he still can't really read or write. And we're trying to support the classroom and having some accommodations that are in his IEP so he can participate. He loves Kahoot, and he had expressed that he would like to create a Kahoot and share it with the class. Now, this was like late Friday afternoon, so I don't know and I've been looking at Kahoot's accessibility. Has anyone had experience with text to speech on Kahoot, or if he's able to actually create his own Kahoot for the class without being able to read? I don't know. I could look into it more. I just didn't know if anyone off the top knew anything about.
I haven't. I've used Kahoot some, but
Yeah,
I'm going
I don't know
right
either,
now, and
actually.
I'm turning on some stuff to see what I can find out.
That's exactly what I was going to do. I was like, oh, just turn it on while we're talking.
Yeah, like I wonder if you could use, like I have read and write. I wonder if you could use it.
Yeah, he has read and write. We have those on the Chromebooks, on his Chromebook.
It seems like that would work in it.
Right?
I think so.
Yeah, I would think it would. Yeah, so Alyssa says in the chat, if you don't have it timing, right? The timing piece is the trick with Kahoot sometimes too, is that timing aspect of it doesn't offer up a lot of time for things to be up there. We've used Co-Writer and Snap and Read with them, so those do work. That's more for answer reading, but it could be used with an overlaying extension. Yeah, that's my biggest struggle with Kahoot always is the timing part of it. If you're working with students at different levels, the timing throws the whole group off.
My latest issue or thing I'm trying to get is math, high school level math, and some extensions. So my school district, they use a learning management platform. They use Canvas. And then we've got, a number of kids who would be described as dysgraphic, who really need a way to interact with math in all of their science and math classes, of course, which is going to allow them to do it in a digital space. And our district had bought an math type, which works in Canvas. But the problem is that some of the assignments aren't Canvas based necessarily. They may be embedded in a different tool like Google Docs or Google Slides. And I don't think math type is going to work for them if they're outside of Canvas. Equatio, I did meet with the folks from Equatio, which it will work as a plugin in Canvas. And I didn't know, it's just one of those things where I think what the district invested in is limited and ends up excluding some of our kids. So.
Yeah, Lauren, we had this dive into this math conversation last week.
Okay.
As Lauren pointed out, same kind of thing. And we talked, what else did we talk about? Equatio, math whiteboard.
It depends on what the math is. So I have like a 9th grader that was doing geometry and will be on track to do trig and then pre-calculus. So I needed like more robust math tools, but in Microsoft, like in the Microsoft suite, you can use, there's like the equation, it can set it up for you, the equation there. It depends on what they're already using. So this past week, that was what I was kind of diving into, was asking math teachers, like, where do you set up the problems and what platform are you using? Because we use Canvas as well, but they're not doing the work in Canvas. Like the student isn't doing the work in Canvas. One of the like really creative solutions that the Microsoft education person that we consulted with, she was saying you could even use forms, have them answer the first question, and then each of the steps in the process as like option 1, option 2, option 3. So it was like question 1 to answer something that had 7 parts in the process. The answer that each line would be 1 step in the process. The student that my colleague and I were supporting is starting to lose function of his hands. So we had some other access issues. But obviously very high intelligence, and we're having a lot of these 2E conversations this week. A lot of twice exceptional students, or even just students that are on grade level, but who have complex bodies and can't interact in the same way with the technology. And we're so virtual heavy still. I mean, our students are back in person, some a little piece, but it's really been hard. This kind of ruled my conversation this week. That's why it's kind of bumpy. I don't think I have good answers.
Right. But
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, Equatio is really good. I mean, the math type, we looked at that app. It's a very expensive tool and has a lot of features. But if the teachers aren't using Canvas or they're not setting it up in Canvas pages, and then you're going outside of it, then it's like worthless because.
Well, and luckily, I mean, I have the ear of the curriculum and instruction department, because I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I know the likelihood of trying to do this for 1 kid or 2 kids, versus let's embrace a UDL format where we're providing something accessible for everybody. And we know that'll be a better use of our resources, and it's going to serve our kids, and they're listening. But again, it's kind of trying to move the entire district into like, if you're going to go with math type, then I really need you to provide some guidance and some boundaries for how we create the curriculum, so that we can use that tool. So it's just, and I don't feel super competent in math AT. So it's been, I'm trying to learn everything I can. So,
And math
that
AT
helps.
is not a very deep field anyway. There's very few math tools, right? That's part of our struggle, I think, sometimes, is that the math tools are not dense to choose from. So it becomes kind of this creative solution. Like Lauren, that example of the form, that Microsoft form, is about as creative a solution as you can come up with to address a math need with limited access to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really out of the box thinking.
It really is. It's a great example because it's getting to the core of how do you demonstrate what that student knows, right?
Mhm.
Does that student know the steps of the process, and how do we let that student show that without them being able to physically do it? So it does a really nice job. It's so creative, though, as a solution. I love it. You're asking a lot of people too to put that together,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is a concern because that feels like the moment that it will fall apart.
Yeah.
Right? Is you're asking everybody to say, look, instead of just watching the student demonstrate the flow of this problem, you're going to have to give them all the steps in a way that allows them to pick their way through that path. And yeah, it's a lot. You're asking them, but it's such a cool idea, though. I like it. I like it as an idea. It's awesome. I think it's great.
Hi, I don't know if anybody's tried using MathShare before, but it's a new program that Bookshare has made it, and it's free to use. And it has those problem sets that can kind of get set up and walked through with multiple steps in it and a calculator embedded. So I haven't used it too much. It's still kind of in its beta creation.
I forgot about that. Yes, I
Yeah.
didn't know about that.
So
You said it too, Danielle, and I just went to
Yeah.
find the website. It's in the chat.
yeah, so I don't know. It might or might not meet your needs, but at least put it in the toolbox, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys used FFX before? EFO, FFX? Okay, let me do that one. That one's like scientific calculator. I think you can, you get the software for free if you meet the criteria, which all of our students would, and you can certify them as a teacher, an AT professional, a related service.
Awesome.
Let me find it. FFX it's called.
Oh, this seems like, Lauren, this math share that I agree. I had completely forgotten about. Organize it. Math share lets you break problems into smaller parts and focus on solving step by step. At each
Sounds
step,
good.
yeah, at each step, the students can take notes to capture their thinking and show their work. Students can type, speak, or use a scratch pad to share legible solutions. Designed on UDL principles, students can access content and express themselves with multiple modalities. And they should have led with this. They buried the lead a little bit, but free for all. There you go. That's the blurb from the front page.
Yeah.
That's something to play with.
Thanks, Danielle.
Awesome. Thanks, Danielle. That's great.
Welcome.
All right, now we all have something to go play with as the day goes on. Right? More math things. We're going to become math experts. 2 weeks in a row, we're talking about math. We're all going to be math experts. This is great. Awesome. What else can we solve today? Or at least what other resources can we share with each other? Anybody else struggling with a solution for a student that you want to drop out there? Or any other thoughts about the Kahoot idea that Anya shared? Don't want to forget about hers as well. The other thing, thinking about what Lauren shared, Anya, you could have your student use a form, like a Google form or a Microsoft form, and set up this kind of quiz, and then the timing factor's off, and all your AT tools will work in it without having any issues at all. That might be another solution too.
Yeah, I think he uses Google Forms in the classroom, and we met how to use, some extensions that could read the forms for him. I think he wants to create something for all the kids in his class for the Kahoot. So he wants to be like the creator and sharing. But you're right, that could work too.
Yeah. Interesting. You could be creative with the form too. It could be, you could actually build it if you really wanted to get deep in the form creation there. You can create a form that has those multiple paths to take people to an end. It's like a choose your own adventure form almost, right? Like you answer this question, takes you here. You answer this other question, it takes you to the other side, and it suddenly branches out into different choices and different paths. Cool. Alyssa puts in the chat. It's fun, and we haven't even asked Alyssa why she's at the car dealer yet, but we'll get that from her at some point. Now we will, because I asked her. Alyssa says also have used Jamboard and Whiteboard.chat depending on the math being used, and a Google form, which each step being a question. Yeah, that's the same kind of idea what Lauren had mentioned, right? That form creation that walks them through the steps. Really cool idea.
I think you can do it in OneNote too, because in OneNote there's also sort of like an endless whiteboard. There's a whiteboard that you can access in Microsoft, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's a little hard for my guy who's got hands that he's losing control of his hands, so the alternate access piece is making it hard because he can't like anchor on it, and he's gonna have to start to use some like scanning and other things. But for your guy, Anya, he might be able to, or she might be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, yours is trickier, Lauren, because there's that access positioning piece going in there too, which is impacting all that other part that we're talking about. Yeah, that one's pretty. That one's involved for sure.
I have kind of an open-ended question for everyone.
We love those, Daniel. Go ahead, hit us with it.
So I have a student who I have to do an AT eval for this week, and it's going to be remote. I've never met the student. He's in high school, and all I know so far is that he needs organization help. I'm meeting with the teacher virtually tomorrow to get more info, but once I get into the student facing part, I'm just not sure how to complete an assessment virtually, and wondering if anybody has done it and what they learned and any tips about that.
Yeah, I think you're in a fun spot there, Danielle. You're handling it with the right kind of laugh and smile, which is good. Anytime I've done any kind of consult or eval with students and it's been virtual, the one thing I constantly think of, first of all, it's what Alyssa put in the chat too. Drop things to them. If there's things you want them to try, get it to them first. Give them a chance to break all that stuff open and have it set and ready to go. I always think your point person at the student's house is going to be the most important part of your eval. You have to have a right-hand person at that spot, not the student, but someone else to potentially act as your eyes and scan the whole situation. I know that's been some of the harder things I've had when I've worked with students remotely, is if I ask them to share their screen, well, that's one thing, that's easy. But I don't want to see their screen a lot of times. I want to see like over their head. I want to be behind them and see like over their shoulder. And so having another person who's comfortable being that person for you, oh, could you move to the right so I can see their workspace as they're doing something.
Yes.
So it's about being able to visualize those tasks as they're completing them. That to me has always been the trickier part.
I agree. And I mean, I think, there's kind of two parts to that AT eval. IDEA wants us to look at the context within which they're, and right now it's their home.
Yeah.
So I agree with Mike, being able to kind of get a picture of the context or the environment in which they're working and kind of what systems are in place. And then, maybe using that student interview from, I mean, like the Wadi, I think it's called like, hey, can I try that?
Yeah.
But that's a great way to just kind of get conversation flowing and getting some insight into what they've tried and what's worked.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I think any information you can collect beforehand is going to be good. The more, the better. And just having them be comfortable with the whole process. Yeah, and like Alyssa said, is that Alyssa that said it in the chat? Yeah. A pre-meeting with the person is critical, either by phone or video, and dropping off an extra device for that video, those other angles. So whether it's, if they have it, a lot of times, luckily the people I've been working with, you know, the parents have their own smartphone. They log into the Zoom app and they hold their phone up over their child so I can see that view also. And that's been really helpful.
I want to throw in, there's another set of tools for thinking about assistive technology that the Minnesota Department of Education has, that has an interview for the parent, the student, and the educators. And it's all sort of based on the set frameworks. So it gives you a chance to think about, you know, it asks the student what it is he wants to be able to do that he can't currently do, and what does he like using. So I'll find the link and put it in the chat, but I like it because it's very much a collaborative tool and a collaborative way to approach thinking about assistive technology.
That's awesome. Cool, Joan. Thank you. Yeah, throw it in for sure. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Danielle, you're going to, it might be tricky. And I think that the other thing that I found with these distance virtual evaluations or consultations or whatever I'm calling them when I do them, is I start to be a little more realistic of what I think I can accomplish in one session and not shoot too high. You're not going to do the same that you would have done if you were in person with them. You just don't get as much done. I mean, I think it's just the nature of it. I think you have to accept that. I think everybody has to accept that. And maybe I found some really good success with families putting that right out front. That, look, we don't have to get everything done today. Let's make sure we can set a follow-up date and maybe set that date first and say, look, we'll get as much as we can today, but because of the nature of us being kind of disconnected, we may need to kind of hang up and regroup a little bit. And I mean, it may need to send you some more stuff. We may need different angles. We may need different support for technology. And so I think putting that out there to them first has been helpful. And, you know, I think a lot of, I don't think it's very surprising to parents right now to recognize that doing this virtual is going to be hard. So I have yet to have a parent who's like, what do you mean we can't get it all done? I think they've all been very much like, yeah, okay, we'll get started today. At least we can start.
Thank you, everyone. This is going to be my third eval in this position, in this career, and in my first virtually. So I'm just a little overwhelmed by the idea of how to attack that, but your suggestions are helpful.
Oh, well, that's good.
You are not alone either. I've only done 2 and they're virtual and they're in group homes, even more challenging. With staff that don't understand, put it vertical, put it, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you're doing fine.
You're doing fine.
Hopefully you've got some good, you know, you said it's for organization. And,
Yep.
well, and maybe looking, I mean, I'm just fresh off of Sarah Ward's workshop, but I mean, looking at the FIE, if there's a current one, and if they did anything like the brief, you know, looking at executive functioning and being able to pull some of that information into what you're, you know, as you're kind of looking at the records and being it, because that's going to inform also. I mean, and if the student has a medical diagnosis, you know, that would indicate executive functioning difficulties, you know,
Yeah, I
then
got
that can,
auditory processing.
Mm.
So,
yeah.
but
That'd be
yes,
interesting,
the
yeah.
Sarah Ward stuff, I already started kind of scoping through
You're
what
on
she's
it.
got online. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, she really, yeah, impressed me. So
Yeah, that stuff is great. Yeah, it's so good. And really, you know, being prepared and having the student be prepared to demonstrate how they do some things, have some scenarios. And how would you do this? What would you do now for this? you were given an assignment today. What do you do? What's that look like on your side? Where do you put it? How do you manage it? All those other pieces. Yeah, they are tricky. You'll do a good job though. Think about how you're going to communicate. It's like Lori said, think about that communication piece with your sidekick who's going to be there. I can't harp on that enough. That was the most important thing. And one of them actually was, and we didn't do this again. I tried this one time and it went it really derailed quickly. The parents were both going to be there. Mom and dad agreed that dad would be the cameraman and mom would be on the phone with me, not in Zoom, but on the phone with me. And then she would direct him as we were all on Zoom so that, oh, this was so great, so that their child wouldn't hear all the discussion of where I needed the dad to move. Well, I'll just put it this way. It went horribly wrong. After about 8 minutes, it spun out and people were yelling at each other. I won't say who, but I wasn't one yelling, so figure out the math of who was yelling, about moving around and doing it better and being better. And I just remember the yelling of, be a better camera person. That was what really broke the whole thing down. And then I had said to everybody, I said, can we just regroup for a second? Let's all regroup for a second. Let's forget about it for 1 second. And let's just talk for a minute about what we're trying to accomplish here. And are we doing, and I put it back on myself, and because there was a lot of tension in that room. And I said, how can I do this better with all of you right now? What can I do to help this move along? And what we found was dad decided to leave. He felt like he was not helping. And so he left. And so that was one way we solved it. And there was just, the whole time I'm looking at the student who's in the camera on the Zoom, and he's looking at me and he's just like, he was screaming with his eyes, please help me here. And it was just so funny. And then we kind of regrouped and actually we broke it up into multiple visits that were short. And I did 2 sessions just with the student, and I didn't worry about seeing anything else. And we just had conversation about what he was doing, and that helped. And then we brought one other parent in to be the camera person, and that helped too. So yeah, just think about that. Watch for the visual cues in the environment if it all starts to go wrong. Oh, the yelling, it was so uncomfortable. Oh, it was rough. But that's good. I'm sure it'll be great. When are you doing that this week, right, Danielle? Is that what you said?
Thursday.
All
Yeah.
right, good.
And that'll be just step 1 though. Step 1.
That's all right. We're waiting till next Monday to hear the result and how it went or how it started. I'm excited.
Will do.
All right, it's a deal. It's a deal. We have a couple more minutes if anybody else wants to drop something in for us to discuss. I do want to give a shout out if you're starting to plan your calendar and you're looking for something that hooks you into our next town hall next week, which is, I want to say May 3rd, but don't hold me to that. I don't know if that's actually next Monday's date. I feel like it is though, Monday the 3rd. On Monday the 3rd, we have the Quiet Leadership team leading our discussion that day, talking about the quality indicators. Joan, will you be here with us that day? Yes? Awesome. Very good. Joan will be here. Kelly will be leading the conversation as well. That'd be great. Want to tease us with something, Joan?
I think we should just let you guys come and basically what we're looking at is how can the quiet indicators be more support to you? So we want to hear from you about how you're using it, how you're thinking about it, and what the quiet leadership team and the quiet community can do to make things as helpful as possible. So not a formal presentation, but hopefully a very engaging conversation.
Awesome.
So please come converse.
That is perfect. That was just enough of a tease. That's awesome. That's perfect. And then as if that wasn't enough, you can join us next Wednesday when we have the Quiet Leadership team taking over AT Chat on Wednesday night on Twitter. So it's going to be a twofer next week of talking about the quality indicators. So that's exciting. So that's next week. And then as Alyssa points out, that is in essence me taking a week off, because then I don't have to plan anything. I don't have to plan a Monday thing, a Wednesday thing. It's like living the life, man. It's great. I
No,
can't
we
wait.
came and groveled and asked Mike for time.
And I was so reluctant to give it up. I was like, please have all the time you want. You want an AT Chat? You want a town hall? Take them all. No, it's all good. It's perfect. This is awesome. So we got a couple minutes. We could either wrap up 5 minutes early, which we never do, which would be crazy. But I'm all for that too. Or if we have anything else, we could, a short thing we can discuss. I'm all for it too. I'm going to hold the cards for next time, because there's only so many cards. So you got to play these out when the conversation doesn't work out. We don't have anything to chat about. Anything from anybody? Good. I'm going to let us go. Take 5 minutes back from your day. Now you got 5 minutes to go do something. I'm going to go stretch for a minute. Everybody, it was a pleasure. We'll see you
Yes.
either Wednesday at AT Chat, which is open mic night. It's basically open forum. So questions and answers from the group. If not, we'll see you next week for the Quiet Leadership team. Awesome.
Nice to see you all.
Thanks for coming, Kelly. Appreciate it. Danielle, thanks. Good luck with your assessment, Danielle. It's going to be awesome.